Just tell me when.
Now,
Later. Okay, now.
Okay. Welcome back to the infamous Storyteller podcast. We are continuing in the little story called My Little Cemetery, and I don't know. There's not much else to say today. Um,
Good job.
so yeah, let's begin. And Joe, go ahead, take us away,
Ha,
and we'll
first
enjoy
take.
chapter 5.
One take wonder, this guy. Chapter
Yeah.
5. I have a problem. She appeared to sleep the entire hour to the vet practice. We walked into the lobby, which smelled like dog food and antiseptic. An old lady sat with an armful of yipping chihuahuas. Monica, the receptionist and vet's wife, smiled upon seeing me. How old is old? Anthony, how are you? No, but I made the other guy younger sounding.
wow, 50.
Anthony, how are you? I don't know how to say women word. Anthony, how are you? Anthony. Tony.
Just,
You
just,
should have been working on
they,
this
they
before.
don't actually sound that old. They're 50. 50-year-olds don't actually sound old.
Yeah,
They just sound like
I
women.
have 60-year-old.
They just
parents.
sound like women. You heard it here
Yeah.
first, folks.
All 50-year-olds.
Anthony,
It isn't until you get to,
how
like, your
are
70s.
you? Is she from
Or if
California?
they're chain smokers. That
Anthony, hiya.
Yeah. No.
probably not a chain smoker in this situation.
Anthony, how are you? She smiled in her grandmotherly way.
Oh,
She's
wow.
40.
She's the grandmother at 50.
You brought a friend. What's her name? She's just going to be mystical old lady. I hadn't asked up to this point, not wanting to know. It would make things harder. I glanced at the vampire. Lauren, the vampire said softly. I think Hobbs actually said, we got her name
Oh,
before.
Joe, how dare you
In
fact
front
check
of
me on a
Anthony.
day like this?
I'm calling you out.
On a day like this.
Yes, on a Thursday. You're going to be asking if it's over yet by the end of this episode. Just like every episode. You're going to... This time you're going to mean
The tone's going to be different.
Lauren, the vampire said softly. Lauren, said Dumbledore quietly. Is Ned available? I asked. He will be right with you after he gives Miss Marble's babies their rabies shots. The dogs were barking and growling like little RC engines. It seemed to me like it was too late for the rabies shots. You and me both, Anthony. Would you like to see our animals while you wait? We have a few babies that need forever homes. She looked at us with sad puppy dog face. Sure, I muttered. Anything to get away from those annoying rats. She beamed and led us past the desk to the kennels where the cats meowed and the dogs barked as we entered. It was loud, but not nearly as grating as the chihuahuas yipping. Feel free to take any of the ones with red tags on their cages out one at a time. I need to man the desk. Ned will be in shortly. She turned and pushed back through the swinging doors. Lauren had popped open a cage a little way down from where I stood and was petting a fuzzy gray speckled cat. I had thought about getting a dog to help me find dead bodies. Well, I don't need help finding bodies. I need an explanation for how I found them. It was not uncommon that I got the side-eye from a detective or officer for finding a body too quickly. Plus, I was never home, and taking care of one on the road seemed like too much work. Lauren had moved on to another cat, this one orange. She spoke suddenly. I was offended that you were bringing me to a vet like some animal, but animals seem to be purer than a large percentage of the people I've met in the past few years. There are worse groups I could be lumped in with. She glanced at me, emphasizing worse groups. Dang it. The narrator failed at his job. She scratched the chin of the orange cat again before moving on to a 7 or 8-month-old bloodhound who had been baying and begging for attention since we entered. All the animals seemed to like her, which was interesting because often they don't like vampires. Animals intuitively know a predator when they see one. Perhaps that's why they don't seem to like me either. The bloodhound wouldn't let her put him back in his kennel, letting out the occasional howl. She sat down and leaned against his kennel door to pet him. The back door opened and the vet walked in. He was smiling, though there was a bit of concern in his eyes. "Anthony! Oh, you have a friend!" He glanced at Lauren and the little bloodhound. "He's a good dog. His owner couldn't stand his baying, so he wound up here." "I like him." Lauren rubbed both sides of the dog's face, making his droopy face swing side to side. "Well, you best put him back," I said, a bit more harshly than I had meant. The happy countenance that she had faded. All the joy left her eyes, and she was now forever marred by this experience. Ned gave me a look. "She needs your help as well." "Let's take a look at you first. Once you manage to get him in his kennel, feel free to come through these doors," Ned told Lauren. Lauren nodded, her lap occupied with the massive puppy. I followed him into his operating room. "Take off your shirt, Anthony, and let me see." I popped off my jacket and t-shirt. Ned looked at the bite marks on my chest and abdomen. They're healing well. Turn around. Let me see that arm." At this moment, Lauren walked in. She paused halfway through the door. I could feel her eyes looking over my bitten and marred skin and chiseled muscles. She slowly shut the door and found a seat along the wall. The vet pulled the bandage off and took a good look at my arm. "Well, you will live. It doesn't look too bad. How much movement do you have?" I shrugged. "I can move it any way I need to, though it hurts quite a bit. It won't stop oozing blood." "I'm gonna poke around a bit, stop the bleeding, and you should be good to go." It wasn't very long before he had me sewn up with a new bandage wrapped around my arm. I got up from the chair. "Now, how can I help you, miss?" Lauren looked at me, a bit irritated. "We need to draw some of her blood. She's being hunted by a few creatures, and I need to lay a trap." "Very well. Come and sit here, and you are?" "Lauren," she said as she walked over and sat in the seat. The doctor frowned, looking at her bandaged arm. "Don't tell me the two of you tried to do it yourselves." He unwrapped the bandage, then shook his head, wrapping it back up. "I'd best do your other arm." I got another glare from her, though I pretended I didn't see. I produced the kit from my jacket, handing it to him. "Her blood's gonna be different." He took the kit, unfazed by my words, and began his work. "Oh, it is quite different." He filled the vial and held the gray, translucent liquid to the light. He looked back at her. "Is it rude for me to ask?" "She's a vampire," I said before she could open her mouth. Bro.
Tact. Right there. Subtlety.
The art
S.
of diplomacy.
The S in Anthony stands for subtlety.
I said
Yes.
before she could open her mouth, so she wouldn't have to waste her time doing that. I was being chivalrous. Yep.
Okay.
Just practical.
So kind and understanding. I'm such a nice guy. He looked at her, nodding, and popped in the next vial. "Not the one who tore you up a month ago, I see." Her eyes strayed to my exposed chest. "Dang, girl. His hairline's up there."
With his flexing pecs. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to narrate.
You can't take my job, Brandon.
Oh,
It's
shut
the
up.
only one of 5 to 6 that I have. How did you come across him? Lauren asked. "Oh, how did... How did... Who's talking? How did you come across him?" Lauren asked timidly. I grabbed my shirt off the vet's operating table and pulled it on. There was a serial killer in Memphis that was abducting prostitutes along with a few college students. A few of their bodies were found void of blood with sounds of an IV having been planted in their necks. I got a call from a friend in the FBI. I handled the problem. "Do they know?" Ned asked. My friend does, but the cops are still officially looking for the serial. Do you find serial killers too? Ned asked. No, killing actual people, even if they are monsters, is not my line of work. I leave that to the cops. Ned popped off the last vial and started wrapping up her arm. Well, you are ready to go. Pay Monica up at the front. I paused, holding the door open to Lauren. How much for the hound? Ned looked at me. $350. How's his nose? He's a bloodhound. Would you hold him for me? I'll be back by to pick him up in a few weeks. Sure, I don't mind you paying to house him. Thanks. I led her way out and paid Monica for the vet's work and the dog's adoption fee and boarding. We got in the Jeep and started driving. We were about 15 minutes from our destination when the vampire spoke, arousing me from my brooding. Why did you get him? The dog. I shrugged. He might be helpful. I mean, I need to find people from time to time. You mean monsters? No, actually, he would get torn up pretty good and likely killed if I sent him after a monster. Not to mention, I have no idea how good of a working dog he will be. You're not making a good case for why you'd want him, she rubbed her temple. Perhaps I get lonely sometimes. I was surprised by my own honesty. She looked at me. Are you, alone a lot? I nodded, pulling off the highway onto a familiar dirt road. My parents live states away, and my siblings spread across the states, except the youngest, who's still at home. I don't see them much due to work. Do they know what you do? My dad does, but the rest think I'm in law enforcement or the military, perhaps the FBI. At this point in the conversation, the thought occurred to me that she had a family somewhere. I didn't ask. I didn't need to make this harder, so I kept on talking. It wouldn't matter what she knew. How come he knows and the rest don't? My father and I went on a camping trip with a friend of his when we came across a monster from the class of Grendel. Are you familiar? She shook her head. It's a lanky, human-like creature that hunts and eats people. It's horrifying and is one of the few things that a gun won't do squat to. The short story is my father's friend was in this line of work, so we were able to survive. Did you kill it? No, it can't be killed. It's still somewhere up in the Rocky Mountains. We were lucky to survive. Are you going to try at some point? It's too dangerous. Finding it would be next to impossible, and it would kill me 9 times out of 10. So it really can't be killed. I don't know how. Perhaps if I could get it in a foot-thick steel box and fill it with molten metal or concrete, but it's too smart to be captured. It sticks to the mountains. The government has tried to find and kill it, but they're only feeding it with the men they send. My mentor even went after it. He's missing along with 10 other men. Are there many of these monsters? I don't think so. I've only heard of the one. There were more, supposedly, which makes me think it's killable, but the folklore on how is not accurate, to say the least. Perhaps it's always just been the one. I don't know. A shiver ran down my spine. There was a reason I work here in the South and never take jobs in the Rockies. It's said once it gets a taste of you, it never stops haunting you till you are devoured. We rode in silence for a few more minutes until I pulled off the dirt road onto the overgrown strip that led to my graveyard. The vampire seemed to feel the change in my mood. She wasn't stupid. She kept glancing from me to the darkening road ahead. The moon would be rising soon. She'd become skittish, eyes moving quickly. I could feel her fears swelling the closer we got to the clearing. I let out a long breath as I pulled into the clearing. It was covered in mounds of grass marked by stakes with trinkets on them. My gut felt hollow. One was fresh, covered in rich soil with the dress shoe next to the stake, with the dress shoe set on the stake. I put the Jeep in neutral and sat in silence. Part of me wanted to keep her alive as long as possible, but that would not be doing me or her any favors. No, I should end it. Oh no. We have a... Oh, the comment's not visible. Oh, it will be, though. Can I hide it? Sorry, I'm pausing everything so I can... Simple.
You know, something dawned on me that Lauren would probably comment on.
What?
Oh no!
If no one has survived seeing, seeing this thing, how do they know that it's a taste of it will stop it?
It's
Won't
like
stop
the
it.
Dread
The
Pirates
Dread Roberts is here for your soul.
Yeah, it's like, how do you know no one survives the Dread Pirate Roberts?
There will be no survivors.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question.
yeah. It just dawned on me, and I feel like that's something Lauren would say. And I know it's already written and kind of published, so
Too
can't
late.
exactly edit that.
It's way too late.
But
Yeah,
that
well,
thought sprung to me.
You could
yeah.
just fix
Does he
it.
say it, or is that a thought in his head?
I think he thinks it.
I think he said it because he
No,
said
no. A
no
shiver ran down
ever-
my spine. There's a reason why we're carrying this out. There's no quotation marks. He's just...
Okay,
Yeah. He doesn't
so
say
that
that
would
part
be
out
what I
loud. He's just thinking it.
Okay.
So the
It said,
fallacy
"If
is in
it's a
his
taste for
mind.
you, it never stops hunting you until you are devoured."
Okie I'm not looking at this right now. I could
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
it up on Amazon.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, you can't actually.
Check out the link in the description. I
actually on Royal
forgot to
Road.
add it. Dang it.
Yeah, well,
It's
I
not on
bought it
Amazon.
so.
Hey, you,
Oh,
in the
that's
future.
right. You did back when Kindle Vella wasn't the thing, but
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
you random
whatever.
guy in the future.
they've deleted that. It's not a thing anymore.
Rude.
Sorry.
My hard-earned money spent. I remember what I was doing when I bought it. I was playing Warframe. I was like, you know what? The book's out. I'm gonna buy it.
That's
Nice.
so nice of you. It wasn't even done.
But I was enjoying it.
It's a
That's
good
true.
one.
That's
Guys, you
that's a
heard
good
it
point.
here
I mean,
first.
I don't want to use past tense. I am enjoying it.
Yeah, you'll like the last 5 chapters or whatever.
I mean, I'm liking it all.
It really ties it all together.
It does.
in
Don't
one
forget to
skinny
leave
knot.
a like if you like it.
Kinda
If
like
you don't
floss
like
turns
it,
into a knot like floss.
Don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe so you can leave comments on how much you don't like it. Because how are we going to learn if we don't hear about our mistakes from someone else?
I don't have a bell. I do have a horn,
There
though.
actually is a suggestion editing thing on Royal Road. It's very helpful.
Oh, that's fun.
Ooh.
So you can give suggestions and edits. So like when
Well,
I
it
missed
wasn't said out loud.
killer at the end of Serial, up there, like you can highlight that and put killer at the end or whatever.
For your own
Or you
personal
could
copy
write
of
your
the book.
own paragraph and insert it
You can,
and make that a recommendation.
so you can just
You can do that
retcon.
too.
You can just retcon.
No,
Personal
I am now
canon.
imagining
I could accept it. You know,
Just-
it's
unabridged. That's what
it's
I'm
fun.
imagining.
That's
it's
really
a cool
funny.
website.
I could
Yeah.
imagine someone like writing a whole insert chapter and be like, "Now your plot hole's fixed. You're welcome."
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a Chad move.
Chad move is to write a prequel book in the
I-
prequel section.
I work with a Chad.
Is he a Chad though?
He is an absolute Chad.
Okay, so he's in the name and of the name, is what you're saying.
Yes, but did not know of the name.
Oh, that makes it better.
You're
Like,
saying that
Then
Chad
he
was being
is
a
true
Chad
Chad.
because
true
of
Chad.
Chadness himself and not for others.
Yeah.
Sick.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Yes.
I'm anxious to see what happens next.
I should
We
end
all are.
it.
Quaking in my boots.
Quicken in my custom baby seal
Baby
leather boots.
seal.
Yeah. I got out of the Jeep and walked around to the passenger side, my face set in stone. I pulled the passenger door open. The vampire trembled under my touch as I pulled her roughly from the Jeep and dragged her to the center of the field. I pushed her down onto her knees. The first rays of moonlight breached the tree line, gliding across us. I pulled my 1911 from the holster and clicked the safety off. The sound seemed to ring through the empty clearing. The vampire skin shone silver in the moonlight, giving her a heavenly glow. With my free hand, I pulled my knife from my pocket and cut into the back of my wrist, holding my gun. I discarded the knife, point first, into the grassy ground. Blood rolled over my fingers down the barrel of my 1911 and landed on the back of her head. She shook with each drip as if they were physical blows. I stood there waiting for her to lash out and attack. Under the full moon, she should not be able to resist my fresh blood. She knelt there stiffly, fingers digging into the ground. I watched as her fingers slowly dug furrows into the rain-softened soil. She gradually went limp and collapsed to the ground. Ground was said a lot this paragraph.
Yeah, that needs to be cleaned up.
Her back heaved as the soft
very
sob.
grounding.
Her back heaved on the ground as soft sobs escaped on the ground.
Thanks for making it better, Joe.
In a moment on the ground, my mind went back to the similar sound as I swung softly side to side. Dots started to spot my vision. I let out a long, slow breath and allowed the 1911 to fall to my side, the safety on. I wiped the gun on my pants, but the blood was dry and didn't come off. Dang it. I slid it back in its holster.
It dried that fast.
No,
That is
they'd
some
been standing
crazy-
there for a really long
Well,
time.
No,
It
I-
actually implies that they're, that my goal when I wrote that was to imply that they'd actually been there for longer than.
No, my little noodle brain thought, wow, he's got a lot of platelets
No,
in his
no,
blood.
Brandon, I was with you.
Anthony's
I was
got
like,
some
Yeah, no, that was
coagulation going
probably-
on.
Poor writing on my part.
No. I was like, no wonder he's so special. He's got so many platelets.
He's got
I've
got
Coagulated.
all
For
the
a
platelets.
man who has to make up a sister to be his editor, what can you expect?
Yeah. This is just sloppy non-sister
It's
writing.
true. If I only had a sister who would edit this.
I wish we had.
If only you had
Guys, subscribe to the Patreon that we're going to have
could
so we
blame
can
it
get
all on
ourselves a
her.
sister.
I could go on RuneScape and just be like, willing to buy sister. You just have to edit my
Bad.
books.
That sounds like that's going to go downhill very quickly, Brandon.
It's RuneScape. People would buy girlfriends, and it was, hollow. No, I never did it because it's hollow.
No, that sounds like the start of a very, very flourishing relationship to me.
Sounds
Oh,
like the
yeah.
start of an anime. I bought
Women love that.
a girlfriend on RuneScape, and now I have to pay for her
Oh,
child
maybe
support.
Membership.
I don't
They
know.
used to have
RuneScape
newspaper
on.
order wives. That used
Yeah.
to be a thing.
True.
I almost said simpler times.
I mean,
I did just now.
What?
Good thing you caught yourself. That would have been
I
awkward.
know. Whew, it would have been awkward.
Not gonna edit that out. People will
Just
know
put
you
that
for
on
who
and
you
add
are.
some
A
time.
guy who knows things about the past.
I know. So
I
Anyway.
couldn't kill her. I didn't know how,
with
It's
a bullet.
awkward.
but
That's
she
his
hadn't
job.
given in to her natural instincts. My head was pounding, so I crouched, trying to get some relief as waves of blackness crashed over me.
He's an idiot.
I didn't understand. I just slept. The waves shouldn't be back so soon.
Blood loss.
Dun dun dun. Wow, there's so
that
much.
makes that scene is so much worse.
There's so much
Like,
lack
it's
of.
not drops of blood. It's just like squirt, 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 squirt.
No, it's like, and you don't get that kind of blood draw from like a horizontal slice across the
It's
wrist.
gotta be vertical.
Because it
Hey,
doesn't get the vein
no,
as deep. That's the vertical, like, suicide slit.
people in
Like,
the comments.
We're gonna have to bleep that
This
out.
is for
We're gonna-
educational purposes only.
Don't do this.
I think we
No.
should leave it. I think people are too afraid of words. And maybe, and I don't
That's
think this
true,
video
but
is.
if this
most
gets
people-
us demonetized, it'll
Most
just be this
people know.
episode. We're not here for the money.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
here to send a
it's,
yeah.
message.
This video was going to kickstart our monetization, but now it's too late. Dang it.
crap.
What? 12 episodes of
We only
Clarence
have
can't
one
do
more
it. It's gonna be
confirmed
this one.
viewer.
Oops.
Yeah, so that's the conclusion of chapter 5.
Yeah.
Wait, really? Why did I
Yeah, he
feel
falls
so...
asleep.
Ugh.
You should have just renamed the chapter to Anthony Takes a Nap.
Yeah.
Now, I know he falls asleep. I'm aware what's coming. However,
Oh, are you though?
it's been... Have you rewritten it since then?
I've rewritten everything.
I do vaguely remember the dog being here.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in chapter 6. Don't worry.
No. I mean, like, in this scene, I remember the dog being there because... I'll talk about it once we read this next chapter.
Oh, you thought the dog was there when he's like goes to shoot her?
Yeah,
I
it
thought
threw me out.
I could have
That's
sworn that he
awkward.
brought the dog.
Yeah,
like,
I
in the
swear,
original
like,
edit.
holding
If you
the
guys
dog.
literally just read next episode. I
Ooh.
hate caves and nothing good happens in caves. I think you'll your
Yeah,
recollection
That's where
will
I
be
remember the
refreshed.
dog. But I remember the dog there, her holding the dog and shaking. I don't know. Maybe I just Mandela affected
you
this
just
in here.
Yeah, you just
Bro.
Mandela'd the dog.
Bro, I think you Mandela with it. Yeah, I don't remember writing any
Guys,
of that.
leave in the comments if you remember the dog being there.
That they never read about.
No, there could have been someone who read
No,
On
that's
Royal
you're
Road.
probably
He
just,
happened-
Brandon, I think you're mixing up events from different chapters.
I probably am.
No,
am.
I don't think that's actually even what happens in the other chapters. Anyway, Joe,
I'm
read
so
chapter-
excited
no, but it's close
to
enough,
name
I
Yeah.
the
think,
next
there.
episode I Hate Caves. That's just a good episode title.
Yeah, it is. But
I hate
we're on
mine.
chapter 6.
We're on
so
chapter 6.
Next time we can read chapter 7 and
Okay.
8 and resolve this.
Let's get to it. Chapter 6. There's always something hidden in the cellar. I was surprised when I woke. My eyes shot open under the hot sun. Lauren was missing, along with the Jeep. My 1911 still sat securely under my arm, and my knife was in the earth not a foot from me. Passing out was worrying. It had not happened in a long time. I could usually feel it coming on and find somewhere to sleep before I passed out. It took all day to get to my storage unit. I opted for the dirt bike instead of my truck. After losing 2 vehicles, it was too much to ask for a third. On my way back to the motel, I pulled into a local barbecue. 3 cop cars were parked out front. I walked in, and a pretty girl in a red apron directed me to a table not far from where the cops sat. I ordered brisket and listened to their conversation. They were swapping stories and having a good time when their radio started chattering. Something was pacing around some houses in the national park. The description was a 4-legged creature. They packed up and were gone in an instant. I followed, leaving my brisket. Rookie mistake. I pulled up the general location on my phone and sped after them. I exited the city and drove towards the park. It was 10 minutes before I could pick out the flashing lights of the police cruisers. The chopper buzzed high overhead, moving to the east away from the location. Had they called a chopper? I followed their lights through the winding mountain roads until I reached the base of a long driveway. The 3 police cruisers were at the top. My heart rate increased the moment I stepped off my bike. I slipped my 1911 from its holster. The sun had dipped below the horizon and a soft drizzle had started. The closer I got to the house, the hollower my gut felt. The lack of noise was not reassuring. I could see the gleam of a light from the house. I crept up a little further, then pressed against the side of an old tree and watched. The 3 cruisers sat motionless in the gravel parking lot, red and blue lights flashing. After a few minutes, the driver door of the closest cruiser opened, and out slipped what I first thought to be a very big dog. It sauntered over to the next cruiser, reached up, and attempted to open the back door. A light came on from inside the car and silhouetted the beast. It had a long neck and a body that resembled a large dog, but its feet were talons. It raked its talons down the window and yanked the door open. Gunshots erupted from the inside of the cruiser. The creature's head lunged forward and dragged a man's body out of the car and off behind the house. I could feel eyes boring into me. I kept glancing around, but like most people, my vision sucked in the dark.
Sure would be nice to have a vampire.
Sure would be nice to have better eyes. Dang it. The wind was to my
Should've brought his
back.
thermals.
What'd you say?
He should have brought his thermals.
He should have brought us thermals. Rookie mistake. That's code word for brisket. The wind was to my back. A moldy smell like rotten oranges left in the Tupperware way too long wafted to my nose. I glanced backwards and caught two gleaming pink eyes staring at me from deeper in the woods behind me. I twisted, brought my pistol around, and let loose the entire clip in the direction of the glowing eyes. Instinctively, I ejected the spent mag and slid in a fresh one. I released the slide. Period. I broke from where I stood and sprinted towards the house. Branches cut across my face and body. I breached the trees and past the cruisers, slamming hard into the front porch screen door. I fumbled with the handle for a moment, then swung it open and slammed it shut behind me. I stared back through the window, but saw nothing. Had my silver rounds been effective? I clicked the lock on the screen door. Little good it would do. I walked up the steps to the front door, which was cracked open. Holding my gun ready in one hand, I carefully slid the door open. A body lay on the floor in front of me. It was one of the cops from the barbecue joint. He was torn up. Big chunks of flesh were missing from his body in circular scoops, like someone had taken a large ice cream scoop and removed a spoonful here and a spoonful there. Lovely. The old carpet he lay on was saturated with his blood. The echo of his recently deceased soul reverberated through the room. I shut and locked the front door. The living room was undisturbed. I grabbed his pistol, a Glock, from where it had fallen on the ground. I could tell by its weight that the mag was about half empty. Right in front of me was the kitchen, and to my right was a set of stairs. 2 sets of bloody footprints led up. One was small, either a woman or a child. Next to them were the talon tracks of the creature. I worked my way through the house, first the kitchen, then up the stairs. The tracks led to a window that was partially open, but all the upstairs rooms were empty. Water break.
Yeah, as we read this, there's a lot of having written Clarence the Reluctant Necromancer, and having help like editing it. There's a lot of extra words in this older work that could be cut or condensed. I could probably edit the whole thing again if I wanted to, but
It's too late.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to let it be free on Royal Road. So if I do, I might make if I get around to making a hard copy, I would edit it and put it up on Amazon as a hard copy so it could still be on Royal Road. But
That'd be cool.
yeah, it's okay for our first little story.
The tracks led into a window that was partially open, but all the upstairs
Oh,
rooms
man.
were empty. I know, I'm just reiterating. I went back downstairs and studied the kitchen. A cordless phone lay on the counter. Next to them was a kitchen knife set, with 2 knives missing. Clarence's first and second favorite knives. I peeked out one of the windows and thought I caught a glimpse of movement, but to be honest, I wasn't sure. It was going to be a long night. I had at least 7 hours before sunrise. It was time to get settled. I rummaged through the kitchen drawers until I came across what my family called the catch-all drawer. Most houses have at least one drawer or place where all the odds and ends go. I found a hammer, a fistful of nails and screws. I drove a few nails into the back door, securing it to the frame. Then I went upstairs and did the same to the bedroom doors. It wouldn't keep anything out, but it would make a good amount of noise. I balanced a glass cup on the front doorknob to warn me, since I'd run out of nails and screws. With that done, I went around and turned off all the lights except the upstairs hallway. I set one of the kitchen chairs in the back corner of the room so I could see all the possible entryways, then sat and waited. It had been about 2 hours when I heard tapping come from upstairs. focused on the sound and tried to get a feel for where it was originating from. It sounded like fingernails striking glass, probably the window at the end of the hall. I took a deep breath through my nose and stood up from my chair. I walked to the base of the stairs. The tapping paused. I climbed the stairs until I reached the point where my head just barely broke level to the second floor. Movement caught my eye. A taloned hand was stroking the glass almost aimlessly. I trained my gun on the window. The claws raked against the bottom of the glass as it pried the window open gingerly. Rattling came from the front porch. An idea popped into my head. I rushed down the stairs, bent over the fallen officer, and pulled out his taser and its extra cartridge. The upstairs window opened. I backed myself into my corner. The creature leisurely ambled down the stairs. I leveled my gun and emptied my 1911 to its center mass. Tufts of hair blew out its back as my rounds ripped through it. It crumpled at the base of the stairs. It didn't move. Yes. The scraping at the porch door stopped, then resumed at a window to my right. I looked back at the base of the stairs and instinctively leveled the taser at the blur springing at me. Its body locked up. The current took the thing on a ride. It shook and writhed as the current passed through its body. I dropped my 1911, pulled the Glock from my jacket, and emptied the rest of the mag into its flat face, blowing each eye out along with the nub of a nose. I picked up my 1911 and loaded another mag, pocketing the old one. I pointed at the beast as I let go of the taser trigger. It didn't move. I cautiously slid my foot towards it and touched its body. It was dead. I could clearly distinguish its softer ring from the dead officer's. I thought I'd felt something leave its corpse after I shot its head. I let out a soft sigh. Good. Not many things, even in my strange world, could keep going with a head full of lead. I changed out the taser cartridge with a fresh one. I walked over to the cop and took his extra mags for the Glock. I should have already done this. I swapped one out and pocketed the other.
Sounded like you said guac.
Guac.
Glock,
My
yeah.
poo-poo.
Yeah, no, I know he said Glock, but it sounded like guac.
Oh dear.
Got an extra mag for my guac.
I've got an extra mag for my guac.
We segue a lot right now. I'm
Those
so sorry.
chips aren't gonna know what hit them.
Those chips are not gonna know. Dang. That could be a word referring to a person, place, or thing that isn't chips. I'm not going to think too hard about it. I swapped one out and pocketed the other. I pulled the door open, stepping onto the porch. The creature looked wary, its pink eyes blinking, standing to the right side of a cop car. I unlocked the screen door and opened it. The creature stood there just looking at me.
Here, boy.
Was it really going to just let me shoot it? I raised the taser and fired. Amazingly, both barbs struck and the creature fell to the gravel. I walked over to its writhing body and dumped the new mag into its head. I reloaded the Glock, then let up off the taser. I nudged the creature with my boot. It was still alive. Barely. I pulled the taser again, set the barrel of the Glock right over its eye socket, and fired 3 more shots. I checked again. It was dead. I went back into the house, walked upstairs, and followed the bloody footsteps out the window. I climbed out onto the roof. The footprints were hard to follow, but there were clear scrapes alongside. The bloody prints stopped at the peak of the roof, where small lines of blood ran down either side of the roof, indicating that they'd stood there for some time. I looked around, but there was no sign of anything or anyone. The helicopter that flew off earlier, had it picked this person up? I needed to get going. This was a mess. Dead officers and creatures' bodies. Soon backup would be here, and I didn't want to sit in an interrogation room. I'd better leave. And if I didn't want to sit in an interrogation room, I'd better leave. I pulled out my phone and called Chris. He picked up right before his voicemail.
Yes.
His voice was gruff and rugged. Chris, it's Anthony. I have a situation in Tennessee. Some local officers are dead, and I'm not going to be able to whisk the monsters' bodies away.
I'll be there in 5 hours. Send me your location. You're not being held, are you?
No, not this time.
Are you still at the location?
Sure am. Cops should be showing up any minute.
Ditch the location until I get down there. I don't need another Pennsylvania incident.
My mind went back to the jail cell and long into interrogation with the state investigator before Chris came and cleared things up. I'm on my way out, I told him. Pack a taser. If you run across these things, it'll give you a chance to blow its brains out.
How many are there?
I killed a few, but there may be more.
Well, if you need a hand, don't be afraid to ask for help. I've dealt with a few strange things myself.
Will do, I replied. He hung up so quickly I didn't beat him to it. I like Chris. He cut through red tape, and as my boss, he gave me free rein over my work as a private contractor. He has 3 monsters to his name, or anomalies as the government like to call them. He was the most experienced supernatural agent they have at the FBI. I made my way to my dirt bike and had to sit in a ditch as cop cars flew past me and up the driveway. I pushed it down the road half a mile before daring to start it up. And that's the end of chapter 6.
Yeah.
Woo!
Ooh-wee. That was a very action-packed episode.
I'm gonna need another knife.
My favorite knife.
Okay, it'll be in all my books now. There'll just be 2 knives mentioned in every book.
So far, your record is 2-0, 2-0. You're doing it.
So far I've done it without even knowing it.
You're
In
doing
no
great.
particular order, the wear of the knife needs to get worse.
They need to
Where
be
for
the
the
same
Yeah,
knives.
just, like, the knife was horribly rusted and dull. There was a chip in the knife.
The handle's like super wobbly on
And then
it.
you get to one of the books, and it's like
Doesn't close all the
2
way.
knife handles sitting on a counter.
And then pans over to the monster with the blades in it. Boom!
Then it's 2 handleless knives.
2 handleless knives laid on the counter.
With just the blades.
2 pieces of steel that had once likely been knives
Make it so
were
elaborate.
rotting in the cellar.
2 small,
Feels like Monty Python.
somewhat
right now.
distinct piles of rust were located in the left-hand corner of a cellar door.
They were located in what probably was a knife holder.
If I had anything to say, those would have been someone's favorite knife in the past. Maybe 2 favorite knives.
Perfect.
Well, there we go. I
Nah,
guess should I
enjoyed it.
end us?
Yeah, we
yeah.
should end this. Are
Send
we
us
done
off.
yet?
Welcome. Yeah. are we done
Welcome?
yet?
Welcome
Are
to
we
the
done?
end.
Welcome to
Welcome
the end.
to the
I'm
end.
so proud of you. You made it this far.
If you made it this far,
Not everyone can.
not
My
everyone has the
elite soldiers.
not everyone has the chutzpah, the moxie.
No,
The-
it's fine. Not every story is for everyone.
That's true.
Well, thank you for joining us in this installment of My Little Cemetery. We're glad you came and enjoyed the festivities, and I suppose, are we done yet?
Are we done yet?
Are we done?
Hi,
yet?
Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Bye, Mom. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom. We're
She
done.
didn't make it to chapter 6.
We're done yet, Mom.
I don't know if my mom. Well, my mom doesn't read for pleasure. She already struggles enough to read as it is.
Does she audiobook though?
She does listen to the. Are we streaming?